Start, we can move.
Yes, sir, you can go.
Okay. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have today with us Thomas Xavier, who is the principal of Transformer Purpose Branding. If you talk about him, he started off with a degree in mechanical engineering, and then he got an MBA, got his MBA from IIM Bangalore. Then he started his career after MBA with Mudra, and he soon moved into creative department of advertising. I mean, even Mudra also, he was a copywriter. So from typically the one of the important things when I was thinking about his career was that normally engineers and MBAs are supposed to be, look at the sales account side. And then when I read his resume, I was quite surprised that here is one guy who had all his qualifications in the engineering and management sciences, completely moving on to a different line. And I read his interview recently, so there is this left brain, right brain thing. So Thomas, I think he has got both his brains well developed. Typically, you say, if you're an engineer, your left brain is more developed, and if you're a creative person, more of your right brain is developed. But here is one person who can handle both subjects with ease. So moving on from Mudra, he moved to McCann Erickson, and then he was the creative director in Leo Burnett, Mumbai. And finally, before his current venture, he was the chairman and national creative director of Leo Burnett Orchard. He also had his film appreciation course from the Film and Television Institute, Pune. And Thomas Xavier is going to talk about purpose branding. So over to you, Thomas.
So thank you very much, Viju. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to to speak to all of you. I know you are all in the field of education, and you are actually preparing the talent for the next generation. So what I'm going to share with you is some kind of perspective from the real world, the marketplace, stuff that I believe you will find useful to share with your students so that they get an idea of what they can expect when they step out after their degree. Now, what I'm going to be speaking about is called purpose-driven branding. Now, there are some words here which you may be familiar with. Certainly, you will be knowing about branding. Now, the point is, branding has changed in the last decade or so. Due to various reasons, branding has changed. And I'm going to be sharing with you how this has changed. Now, this is important because brands are at the core of every business. At the core of every business, the way in which the business transacts with customers is through brands. So if you know how to manage brands, you know how to manage the interface with which a business can make money and create loyalty and make an impact on society. Purpose-driven brand building is actually a very modern concept. It's only a decade old. And I'm going to be sharing with you a bunch of principles which constitute purpose-driven branding. I have talked to students in IIM Bangalore and others, and I was very surprised to see that even in such institutes of repute, people are not talking about purpose-driven branding. And the reason is very simple. It's just a decade old, and there's very little put together. But what I'm sharing with you is something that I believe you will find very valuable in your journey forward. To talk about where branding is today, I want to spend a few minutes talking about where branding was before it became purpose. And so some basics. I'm going to share with you some basics about branding. Now, one of the first things which I told you about branding is that what is a brand? I think that's very important for us to know. If you go and try and diagnose what is a brand, you will find a whole bunch of definitions which people throw. But I have found that many of them are accurate, but very not very practical in terms of how to use it. If you're a practitioner of brands, it's very important to know what you can do about it. And this is a definition that I found very, very, very useful. A brand is a product or service with a differentiating idea wrapped around it. Basically, what a brand is nothing but you make a product in the factory and you take this product. It is likely to be what your competition is also making, but you put an idea on top of it. That idea on top of it, when you put, makes it different and desirable, makes it more valuable and desirable to the consumer. And that's the reason why it becomes a brand. A product becomes a brand when you put an idea on top of it. This is actually the core of all branding activity. Now, till about 10 years ago, and even now in some categories, the way of doing branding is nothing but taking a product and putting an idea on top of it. Now, I'm going to show you a few examples on how this was done and then show you what has happened now. So branding, as it's done in the classical sense, is taking a product and putting an idea around it. So let me share with you an example. And this way of doing branding is what was previously called idea-driven branding, and it is still going on, but in the emergent categories, it's become purpose-driven branding, and I will come to that. So let's look at idea-driven branding for a second. Some examples, this is an example it's an international example. It's a classic campaign, not done by me, but it's done by an agency in the United Kingdom. Take a look at it and we will try and see how this is idea-driven branding.
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, the mild cigar.
So what did you see now? It's an ad for a mild cigar. And this mild cigar has communicated in a certain kind of way to the consumer in this commercial. Now let's try and analyze what really happened. What is the client making in the factory? He is making a mild cigar. That's the product idea. In idea-driven branding, the first idea is the product idea. Here, you capture in very simple language what the product really is. There are cigars out there, but those are special occasion cigars. These are smoked when you have a celebratory kind of occasion. But here is a client who makes these cigars and wanted to expand the market and said that I will launch a mild version of it so that you can have a cigar experience anytime you want. So he made a mild cigar. But by just saying Hamlet mild cigar, nobody will buy it. For that, you have to make it a brand. You have to put it in terms of a life context. You have to put a consumer insight on top of this product and you get what is called a brand idea. A brand idea is nothing but what people popularly call positioning. Now, the positioning of Hamlet is, it's a comforter. So you in the factory, you make a mild cigar, but out in the market for consumers, you sell it as a comforter. It is actually something that you use when you seek comfort in the day. Now, by just saying Hamlet comforter, you can't sell the product because it's boring. Though there is a need very clearly identified in the nomenclature of comforter, the problem is it's not interesting. So for comforter to become convincing to the consumer, you have to put it in the context of a story. So this is what you call the creative idea. The creative idea is nothing but the brand idea being made into a story platform. In this case, it is for life's little ups and downs. That is the story platform of Hamlet. Now, in the factory, you made a cigar. As a brand, you sell it as a comforter. But when you communicate this comforter, you sell it on the story platform of for life's little ups and downs. And you pick up lots of situations and show how Hamlet can comfort you when you have something not going right for you. And in this case, the executional idea is the story that you're telling now. Unpredictable photo booth. a man trying to take a picture and the camera is malfunctioning and it creates tension for him. But he resolves the tension using a Hamlet cigar. Now, this is actually at the core of idea-driven branding, where you take a product and put an idea on top of it and make it more valuable and desirable. But this idea that you put on top of it is a multi-layered thing. There is a brand idea, which is basically the positioning. Then you put it on a story platform, which allows you to come up with lots of executions. And this one execution is about this unpredictable photo booth. To show you that this actually is a story platform for life's little ups and downs, I'm going to show you two more films.
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, the mild cigar.
It's the same story. Instead of a photo booth, you have shifted it to a football game. And this is to attract a different kind of younger, probably, audience who is more into sports. Of course, some of us are football fans, but many others may be snooty about football. They may like other games. So here is a commercial done for these slightly uppity types who look down on football. What sport do they like? They like golf. So another little down in life made good by Hamlet. So at the core of it, Hamlet cigar is a comforter, but the story platform is about life's little ups and downs. And you saw a photo booth, you saw a football game and a golf game, and the brand is able to tell lots of stories and literally laugh its way to the bank by just making a mild cigar in the factory. That's what idea-driven branding is all about. This is an international example, and I would like you to look at the multiple layers in which ideation happened. The product idea is a mild cigar. The brand idea is it's a comforter. The creative idea is that it's for life's little ups and downs. And the executional idea is, in this case, bad day at football or golf. Now, I showed you an international example. I'd like you to show another example from India. Now, this is a brand that I have worked on, and I would like you to, we are all familiar with this brand. It's probably the #1 soft drink. This is a campaign that we did in the mid-2000s, around 2005 or so, where we tried to present Thumbs Up in the same kind of framework, idea-driven branding. So let's have a look at the Thumbs Up campaign.
आखिरी थम्स अप खत्म। कुछ और लाती हूँ।
आखिरी थम्स अप वो क्या होता है?
So, Taste the Thunder is a long-running campaign. Let's try and see how this is a good example of idea-driven branding. So, what does the client make in the factory? He makes a strong cola. It's not a regular cola. It's actually a cola which is a little more spicier and hence a little more stronger on the tongue. So physically, the client makes a stronger cola. But is that what consumers are buying? Now, that's what the role of consumer insight is. The consumer insight is that a stronger cola is preferred by certain kind of people. Typically, they happen to be young people who look for a little more aggressive kind of taste. These are people by pure psychographics in terms of their personality, they are a little more macho. So, which is why the brand idea of Thumbs Up is, while you make a strong cola in the factory, the brand idea is it's the macho choice. It is the choice of the macho. So strong becomes macho. This is the idea that you have put on top of a strong cola. You made strong symbolized as macho. Now that's the most important leap that we made. Now we need to tell it as a story. So the storytelling platform is, men will go to any lengths to have it. Now it's a very macho thing to do, to be obsessive about something and then go to any lengths to do it. I mean, to get it. So this is the story platform of Thumbs Up, that when a man wants his thumbs up, he will go to any lengths to have it. And this particular example that you show uses a very urban kind of sport called Yamakasi, which is basically parkour artists, people who jump over buildings. And this is a very modern thing, urban acrobatics, so to speak, which was a trend at that time. And we use that as a way to show stunts. Now, of course, in this ad, you would have seen a celebrity. A quick point I want to make about celebrities. Every brand wants to use a celebrity from fame. But I strongly believe that if you're using a celebrity, if the fame of the celebrity is not coming from the story that you're saying, the brand will just fall flat. It is very important for you to make sure that the celebrity you choose can pull off that story. Akshay Kumar is a stuntman. He started off as a stuntman before he became an actor. So for him to be able to take the thumbs up story of going to any lengths to have it is very credible. So, which is the reason why Akshay was a very good fit for Thumbs Up. So I showed you two examples of idea-driven branding, and this is how it was traditionally done. These are the basics. So now that you've seen the basics, take a deep breath, because the basics have changed. And like I told you, the market has changed. The marketing landscape has been forever altered ever since literally the internet opened up. From a very passive audience, you have empowered individuals and communities. Siloed channels, that's how advertising used to happen. Communication used to happen in one way in the television, one way at the shop, one other way with trade, in another way at point of sale, etc., or out in the road, etc. And you could actually, get away with it, saying different things. But today the consumer is able to see all of this together. He can't be cut away because he's got visibility. So that has changed. The third part is one size fits all. You say that, okay, macho choice, make one ad for macho and everybody should have it. The truth is today, consumers, even within macho, there are different kind of macho. There is an Akshay Kumar kind of macho. There is a John Abraham kind of macho. And there is even a Shah Rukh kind of macho. Or even if you look forward, further, there'll be others as well. The point is, how do you talk to different kind of people? The old one idea fits all kind of approach won't help. And more importantly, previously, you could get away by saying anything in mass media because consumers didn't have access to your inside story. Today, they have direct knowledge. They can find the truth out of you. Today, literally, the truth is, pardon my language, the consumers can see through bullshit if you put it out to them. They have a bullshit filter. They filter out the bullshit. So in this kind of scenario, merely having an idea and publicizing it with a story platform won't help. Not to say that some brands are still doing it. Probably in certain categories which are not critical, people are willing to accept it. But in categories where they're really involved and those categories are increasing by the day, consumers actually want to know what really is the truth about your brand, which brings us to the need for us to shift, from the current perspective of just being idea driven. Now, the moment you say shift from idea driven, you will see lots of buzzwords around you. People talk of content is important, cultural relevance is important. They talk of integrated marketing, 360-degree marketing. Brands say they're media agnostic. Brand is supposed to be about entertainment. Now, all these things are buzzwords, but these are nothing but ways to distract the audience from the truth that they are seeking. What they really want to know is, as a brand, what are you here for? I don't want to know about whether you're doing it in 360 terms, etc. They want to know at the core, what is the difference you're trying to make? And I'm going to come back to that that statement. What is the difference you're trying to make in the world? So you can look at business as a problem with numbers and balance sheet and a whole bunch of data and all of that. But consumers don't really look at businesses that way, because they just consume the product and they have a life. So they are humans at it. So the current thinking is that you should stop using the word consumer and start saying humans, because consumer is a word invented by economists primarily because it was convenient at that time. It just shows an open-mouthed human just consuming, and that's the only interest for the marketer. But today, consumers don't want to be seen that way. In fact, they believe that they have a life beyond consumption, which is why the imperative is that you start seeing them as human beings who have a life beyond consumption. So look at them through a human lens and see what you see. So, and that leads us to this big new idea that I said, which is that we need to move from idea-driven branding to purpose-driven branding. Now, that's the idea which I wanted to share with you today. Purpose-driven branding is where a brand asks this question: what is the difference that I want to make in the world? What is the language that my brand should speak so that what I do is great out in the real world? Now, it might look a little silly, because if you are a chewing gum maker, what is great about what you do? If you are making something that is life-saving, obviously there's something great about it. But as you will see going forward, that even a chewing gum maker needs to think in terms of the greatness potential of his brand. The reason why I'm saying this is because consumers actually consume products for very deep needs. Even a chewing gum, and I will talk about this going forward, even a chewing gum fulfills a very, very core need, and it's not something to be sniffed out, sniffed about. So we need to move from idea-driven branding to purpose-driven brand building, where the brand speaks the language of its greatness. Much like Stephen Covey encourages us as individuals to access the greatness, this is really the same thing being done to brands. You are telling brands to go back and do soul searching and come back and say, this is what I'm trying to make as a difference. So this is the language of greatness that brands are trying to speak. And I'm going to share with you some examples, some new my own work as well. So the most important thing for this to happen is that we must shift our thinking. So like I said, stop thinking of consumers and think of the human. They are not brand obsessed anymore. They are not thinking of this brand versus that brand, and that's what they're obsessing about. It was true probably about 15, 20 years ago, but today consumers are life obsessed. They want to get to certain destinations. They have personal goals, they have life goals. That's what they are obsessed by. And which means forget the promise the product is making, but articulate the purpose the brand is trying to fulfill out in the real world. Forget thinking about how my product is better than competition and telling that to consumers. Start thinking in terms of what is the difference that you want to make in consumers' life. That's the language of purpose, and I will show you examples of how it's done. Most importantly, yes, you will do ads, because ads are a very convenient way of reaching to humans, also previously known as consumers. But if you want to reach, a brand wants to reach a human, an ad is a great medium. But more importantly, don't just do communication. Do acts, do events, do participation platforms where the consumer or the human, as we speak today, can come in and experience something which advances his life, and he sees your brand as the brand that made it possible. Hence, he will have loyalty towards you. So when you have a purpose perspective, what you're really trying to do is make the brand a mentor of sort for the human. In his journey, you are actually supporting him. You are just being a caddy to his journey in the golf course of life. So that's the role of a brand. So I want to deconstruct some great brands that we all know, and I'm going to use two very, very well-known examples from the international world so that you will get an idea of how these brands have done it. And I'll show you one example of my own work on a brand that did purpose way back at the beginning of the purpose era in India. So when you think of great brands, you need to actually learn some new vocabulary. So this new vocabulary is important because it helps us to understand what is important in terms of information that you want to use as a raw material for coming up with your purpose. The first thing is belief. Every brand must believe in something, irrespective of what product they make. A brand has to believe in something. What is the brand passionate about? You have to articulate that. This is actually the reason why they have come into business, and that has to be articulated. Number two is you must also identify the cultural opportunity. Now, this is the reason why this belief can be actioned into a business. If there was no cultural opportunity, the belief is maybe great, but it will never become a business. So you have a belief, you look at culture and see if there's an opportunity for that belief. And when you marry the two, you get your purpose. It's the reason why you exist. You exist to make a difference in someone's world. And it comes from your belief and this cultural opportunity. Purpose is the cornerstone of modern marketing. And once you've got your purpose, even the product is just an act, one of the acts of the brand. The product is probably the most tangible part of the purpose coming alive. And you do a lot of actions around it. And I will share with you examples as to, so that all these things become clear. But belief, cultural opportunity, purpose, and acts are 4 new words that I will introduce to you when you think of brands today. So let's use a brand that we're all familiar with, and it probably is one of the most charismatic brands in the world, which is Nike. Why I'm using this is because it's easy to understand, and everybody is familiar with the brand. What I'm going to show you is how the purpose construct works for Nike. So what is Nike's belief? Nike believes that if you have a body, you're an athlete. Not just people who win Olympic medals, but everybody can be an athlete. That's what Nike believes. And why is this belief relevant? What is happening in culture that makes it relevant? The fitness revolution. Everybody wants to get fit because they believe that the body that they want can be achieved by engaging in fitness. So the fitness revolution is mankind trying to get to the physique of their choice. And Nike believes that there is an opportunity for making a business out of it. So what is Nike's purpose? When you marry this belief that if you have a body or an athlete and marry it to this cultural opportunity, which is the fitness revolution, you get Nike's purpose, which is we exist to bring out the athlete in all of us. That's what Nike is here for. They may be making shoes, they may be making athletic wear, it could be making equipment, etc., etc. But whatever they do, they are here to bring out the athlete in you. There is an athlete in you which is dormant, and I will awaken it and bring it out. That's Nike's purpose. And every action of theirs is about that. And that's why they have technology acts, they come up with all kinds of shoes, but they also create clubs for getting people to get out and bring the athlete alive, which is there within them. Nike Town, which is a retail kind of experience place. And of course, they do inspirational advertising as well. So acts are basically things that a brand does to make the purpose come alive in the consumer's life, in the human's life. And product is one of them. Advertising is also one of them. And in between, you have a whole bunch of actions. In the case of Nike, even the marathon is an act. The reason why they do the marathon is because it actually makes their purpose, which is to make the athlete in you come alive. That becomes possible because of the marathon. So that's Nike for you. Let's move on to the next brand, which is again iconic brand that we all love. Probably you are looking at this workshop through that brand, which is Apple. What is Apple's belief? We believe there's a creative genius in everyone. I was just talking to Biju a little while ago, and I was telling him that everybody can be creative. The truth is, Apple believes that all of us has a creative genius in all of us, and that they believe. And why is this relevant? What is the cultural opportunity here? The emergence of the idea economy and the creative class. Today, the most valued people are creative, not hardworking people. Of course, we want them to be hardworking. But the most important thing about them is that they can come up with original ways of doing things, thinking of ideas and coming up with solutions. That's the people. So in this context, thinking that everybody can be creative is a great belief to have, and that's a business. And that's why Apple is such a big business. And their purpose is we exist to ignite people's creativity through technology. what they really do is Apple uses technology to ignite the creative within you, the creative person within you. Isn't that great? That's why we are all in love with Apple. Even if you buy iPad or if you buy one of the laptops or the iPhones, at the end of it, what Apple wants you to believe is that your creative side can come alive. And all their actions are all about that. That's why they have innovative and simple products that focus more on what you want to do rather than the technology actually drowning you in confusion, which is typical of the competition. Apple tries to simplify technology and give you beautiful design so your creativity can soar. So that's what it does. And then, of course, everything else, the retail experience. You go to an Apple store, may not be yet in India, but definitely when you go abroad, you go to an Imagine store, you feel completely inspired. You feel you've been to an art studio, a design studio. It's a creative experience. And of course, they use experienced people who inspire you to get the most out of your Apple. So that's the Apple brand. Now, the core of these two brands is that they both have a human purpose. And that's what purpose-driven brand building is all about. Now, when I say human purpose, it's about putting people first in everything. First, you have your belief, you have your culture opportunity, and it's all about people, and then build your business around it. So we need to help our clients discover a liberating human purpose for their brands. We should be able to articulate it. And I'm going to show you an example from my own life where I did that. And we do things only that matter to people. So, we don't do things that are showy and, serving only our interest. But if it matters to people, you should do it. And most importantly, the purpose brand is not only for selling. It is actually to inspire the leadership and the talent within the company. Most often you will find that brands have a certain personality outside in their marketing. But when you scratch the surface and go inside, the people could have belonged to any brand. And that's a lost opportunity because the culture of a company should also be reflective of the purpose that you are radiating outside. And purpose is something that allows you to have the same language both outwards and in the inside. And in fact, if you have the same language, if your people are speaking the language of the brand, believe me, one, you can reduce the cost of communication because your people are going to be ads. Each person, when you meet a person from the company, they are almost, it's like you met a communication, a creative communication of the brand. And at the same time, let me tell you that when I say human purpose, it doesn't mean that all brands should become CSR oriented and all of that. No, it is still selling shoes. Nike is not about CSR. Nike does CSR, but at its core, it's about helping humanity go forward in terms of achieving their ambitions. So it's not about being social, responsible and all of that, which is important, but not saying that that should be the communication or doing charity. Or of course, more importantly, doing lecturing or preaching. We should be empathetic without talking down on consumers. And that's the thing about human purpose. And hence, I believe that it's the best way in which you can launch new age brands. So this is a brand that I launched in 2004, which has an interesting backstory because I happened to work with this entrepreneur, Captain Gopinath, very closely even before his journey into launching this airline. Let me just do a quick time check. So we are at 10:34. I think we should be on time. So Air Deccan, fine. So Air Deccan is a brand that is conceived by Captain Gopinath. I'm sure you've all heard of him. And Captain Gopinath is ex-army. He was running a heli tourism service, and that's how I met him. One day he called me and said that, Thomas, I came back from Europe last week, and I took a flight from London to Paris, and I paid £13 for a ticket. £13 for a ticket from London to Paris. I was shocked, and when I inquired, they told me it's this brand called Ryanair, which is a low-fare airline. They have a low-fare business model where they take away all the frills, and so it's called a no-frills airline. And it just occurred to me that India is a country where, would you believe, 99% of the population has never entered a plane. And we're talking roughly 2003, well into liberalization. And almost 99% of India has never entered a plane. And he said, I want to launch a similar brand in India. I want to launch a low-fare airline in this country. Now, this is the brand's proposition. This is what the brand's core differentiation was. It is a low fare airline. And that's what he briefed me. He said, follow Ryanair, keep costs the lowest, and communicate that. Let's create the lowest fare airline. That's what his brief to me was. Now, when I heard it, the proposition looked fantastic. Why would a brand which is actually dramatically lowering the cost of the category, of cost of entry into the category, why wouldn't it not succeed? Why can't we just communicate that and get the brand out? It seemed on paper like a great brief. But I knew at that point itself that this is not going to be a long-term communication proposition, because when you are rational, it's going to be having a very low shelf life, because quickly there will be other people also coming in, and very soon your low fare would be having competition, and they would only drive the price further down, and everybody would go down in a downward spiral. Now, my point was, this is also not going to be the preferred reason why people would want to fly. Of course, it's the barrier to flying, but flying is a lot more than just being able to afford it. It's flying, remember, it's air travel. Air travel has so much more to it. And it's not just about the rational aspects of it. 99% of India is actually dreaming to fly. And I felt that the language that the brand needs to speak has to be completely different. And here was a opportunity for me to put purpose, the whole paradigm of purpose into practice in India. So my response to Captain Gopi was very politely tell him no. I said, let's create a revolution. And this is what my agency said. The agency is Orchard, and Orchard speak was, let's create a revolution. And the reason why we felt this was necessary was because you are actually opening the floodgates to something that was so inaccessible all these decades. And we felt that if the brand misses that, we are losing the greatness that this brand can be attached to. So the greatness of what you were doing was much more than just low price. So purpose-driven brand building was what we used for Air Deccan, and we came down to this whole thing of, what is it that you are bringing to people's lives when you really think about what is it that we are really doing great. And so there's a quick backstory I want to give you, because Captain was always insistent on this low fare approach, and he was getting impatient because he wanted to put his communication out and he wanted to get the early mover advantage, etc., etc. But we were trying to get to the idea that was eluding us, that we wanted to show the revolution. But what was this revolution? And whenever we used to have this meeting, Captain used to get, very agitated about the delay. But he would get interrupted by a secretary who would tell us that, tell him that the Delhi government was on the line and they were willing to, he was trying to get an appointment with the civil aviation department and it was not possible. And the appointments got shifted because the government was not interested in a low fare airline. For them, it was just another, business trying to make the most of a monetary opportunity. One day, Captain came back from a phone call and came into the conference room, and he was completely flustered, and he put his, he banged his fist on the conference table and said, here I'm trying to make the common man fly, and these people are not even giving me a appointment. I said, Captain, that's the business idea. You are not launching a low fare airline, but you're bringing flying within the reach of the common man. It's his articulation, but that was the greatness of what he was doing. He was bringing flying within the reach of the common man. And that's what we did for Air Deccan. So the launch construct was, we wanted to communicate the bigness. We wanted to start a revolution, which happened to be in the skies. And it's about India and promise of making flying accessible to every Indian. And the way we did it was using the same construct. We came up with the logo and a baseline, which you're familiar with. And I want to share with you some of the belief and the cultural opportunity and the purpose statements that we put down. The belief was, Air Deccan believed that flying is for everyone. nobody should be disallowed for flying. And Air Deccan believe that flying is for everyone. It's not only for the rich. What is the cultural opportunity? 2004, resurgent India of the new millennium. We were seeing for the first time good times, and we were actually wanting new things. And the middle class and the lower middle class for the first time was looking at money, which they were accessing money with which they were able to experience new categories. And we felt that this was a perfect opportunity for actioning this belief, which is flying is for everyone. And when you put it into the resurgent India of the new millennium, we believe that we had our purpose, which was Air Deccan exists to democratize the skies. We wanted to democratize the skies. That's the Air Deccan purpose. And what were our actions? What did we do? Low fare was just one of them. And yes, so one of our acts was low fares, but we had a no class system. So there was no business class and no economy class. It was just one class. We eliminated middlemen. For the first time, we believed that if you want to keep your fares low, eliminate the travel agent. Why do we have to give commissions to someone who's not doing anything but just interfacing a complex kind of booking system? Make it simple. If you make it web booking, Air Deccan was the first brand to make air ticket booking possible on the web. And they also connected smaller towns. Why should only big cities be connected by air? We found out that India had close to 900 airports, of which close to 800 were unused. And we said, if you were able to open up many of these airports, then we would have a brand which actually brings flying for everyone and not just in the cities. And of course, we said that we have to create resonance, emotional resonance in communication. And I'm going to show you some of the communication there. So we created an identity for the brand. We had a simplified logo, Air Deccan. The baseline was Simply Fly, which we made it into Simplify. And we decorated the plane. The cabin crew was dressed up. And we did other things like, who said flying is only for the rich? And Air Deccan is going to launch low fares. Why should there be a class system in the skies? No business class, no economy class, one class, which is people class. Ever had a mouse buy your air ticket? That was Air Deccan opening the web for ticket booking and saying goodbye to travel agents. Who said only big cities should be connected by air? This was a question that people were asking, and Air Deccan was the first brand to answer it in their favor. And then we launched this brand with this communication. After 56 years of freedom, the Indian skies follow suit, presenting Air Deccan. Now, this ad was released before the airline was launched because we wanted the early mover advantage. And also we wanted the government to start looking at Air Deccan favorably, and which is what happened. The government suddenly saw that here was a brand that was allowing the common man to experience a better life. And the government wanted a piece of the action, and they were very, very supportive in giving approvals. And that's what happens when you have a good purpose, which is people friendly. Even regulatory authorities will support you, and that's the power of purpose. We also made a film, which interestingly, Captain Gopi wanted a film on the airline, but the plane wasn't delivered yet. So we didn't have a plane, but we wanted to make an airline film. And I will show you the first film that we made. So this is how Air Deccan launched itself with this line, which is flying is now for everyone. They launched the airline and the response was phenomenal. And some of the advertising that we did was, I believe, also showing the bigness of what we were doing. So we showed the small ATR and said it seats 1 billion people. We said, it's so powerful, it can carry a nation. And of course, sure enough, we were successful, and the inevitable happened, which is we had competition. So what happens when you have competition? Existing airlines started dropping rates, and 5 new airlines announced operations, all low-cost carriers. So the idea is always there for someone to copy, but Air Deccan had to find a way to stay in the foremost position that brands need to. And purpose was what we went back to when we wanted to handle the new change scenario. So we decided to shift the battleground. We said, let's go for share of heart. See, market share is one thing, which is also about business. But today in the purpose era, if you don't have share of heart, you don't have a business, because business will go through ups and downs. But what will keep people loyal to you is if you have a piece of their heart. We are going through COVID times, and a lot of brands are questioning whether they should invest in advertising or invest in brand building, etc. The point is, if you're purpose driven, you will do the right thing, which is stay in people's heart. In fact, they will open up their heart to you if you do what is right by your purpose. So if you have a purpose, you can even sail the brand through tough times, especially downturns or recessions, etc. So we decided that now that we've been around for 3 years and competition is coming, we said, we wanted to bring flying within the reach of the common man. So now let's try and own that idea of being the people's airline. We are the people's airline. The rest is actually for the elite. And that's what we said we'll go after. We signed on a brand ambassador. All brands were signing on brand ambassadors. The brand ambassador that Edeken signed on was the common man, R.K. Lakshman. By the way, R.K. Lakshman has never given the common man for any commercial use before this. In fact, he was so possessive of it that any brand that wanted to associate with the common man would come to him. But in this case, when Captain Gopi flew down to Pune and met R.K. Lakshman and said that I'm from Edeken, I'm Captain Gopinath, and I want your common man to stand for my airline, R.K. Lakshman said, if there was one brand whose ethos matches my common man, it's Edeken. And he sketched this person, which you see here. And if you look closely, it has some kind of resemblance to Captain Gopinath also, if you think about it. And we used to tease Captain about it. But he drew this picture and he charged a royal sum of 1 rupee for giving this common man for the brand. And that's what happens when you have a purpose. People will open their hearts out to you. Commercial considerations go out of the window, not just with consumers, but also with associates and trade and people who want to support the crusade that you are on. When you have a purpose, you are actually having a cause. Your brand's reason for being becomes a cause which everybody wants to support. Much like Nike, which wants to say that there is a fitter person within you and we are here to bring it out. Apple is saying there's a creative person within you and we are here to bring it out. And Edeken is saying that you have every right to fly and we are here to make that happen. So Edeken, of the people, for the people, by the people, was the communication that we did. Then we also had to find something for television. And we said, let's try and pull some emotional strings there. And we looked for story ideas. And when we looked inside the typical Edeken flight in those times, this is roughly 2006, 2007, sorry, 2005, in fact. We found it was true of 6 and 7 also. When you looked inside a typical Edeken flight, hundreds of faces that said, we are doing it for the first time. Almost 40 to 50% of every flight had first-time flyers in it. And we all remember our first flight. And we thought, what if we tell that story of the first flight? And that's what we did. 3 months later, we had India's longest ad film. For a low-fare airline which had very low marketing budgets, we made India's longest ad film, which was 150 seconds in those days. And we knew that it's going to be very difficult to air. This was before YouTube happened, mind you. So it was very difficult to get television time, which was very expensive. And we had to find a way of how to release this long ad film, which told the true emotional story of Edeken, which is about the quintessential common man flying. And we didn't have a media budget either. So what did we do? We did what we call advertising by appointment. We decided to release the ad film on television in fixed time slots, almost like it was a movie. And so we took 7 channels for 4 days, and at recurrent fixed time slots, we released the film. And we invited the audience to come and see it. So we sent, in those days, it was mostly SMS and MMS. We sent email, we did web banners, and we did strips at the bottom of regular press ads. And we also put posters at travel agents, at airports. And this was one of the posters that we did. And this film was called The Old Man and the Sky. And this was the film that we released.
हरिराम जी चिट्ठी
खोल के पढ़ो तो भैया।
दिल्ली से है बेटे की। अरे ये तो प्लेन का टिकट है। हाँ? अरे सुनो रे, प्लेन का टिकट भेजा है हरिराम के बेटे ने।
So this was the film that we released, and the result was that the actual viewership of the channels went up when the ads were released, and that's what the syndicated data report suggested. Also, the coverage of this event by national publications gave us extra media mileage. We also got into the Limca Book of Records for being the longest ad film. When India Today celebrated its 30th anniversary, they picked up 30 pieces of communication which they believe defined India in the last 30 years. This was one of them. So, to sum up, what are we saying? Idea-driven branding, where you took a product idea and put an idea on top of it and then told stories about it, will continue to exist. But the consumer is living a life which is not brand obsessed anymore. He is life obsessed. He's thinking about his life. For him, his brand is his life, not your brand. But your brand can support his brand. So purpose is a language which if you speak, you can really make that intersection happen. So the role of purpose-driven branding is to help you to become relevant in consumers' life in an era where they're otherwise cynical about marketing communication. Purpose allows you to gain the confidence of consumers once again, the trust of consumers once again. Now, I just want to leave you with the question for Amity. Amity is a brand too. If it were a purpose-driven brand, it would be interesting to know what your belief is. I'm sure it's there, but I've left it blank because it's for you to think about. But you have started this institution, this huge institution with a certain belief. Somewhere in your documentation, it's there. If you ever put it in 6 or 7 words, what would it be? And then map it to the cultural opportunity. There is an emergent youth out in India, and you are trying to make a difference. What is this opportunity? What are you trying to fulfill? What kind of social need are you fulfilling? Again, I'm sure it's there. Now, when you put the two together, you will get Amity's purpose. And I'm pretty certain that the language of Amity's purpose can be as powerful as a Nike or an Apple or even a Deccan. I think what you are doing is something which is as great as any of these brands. What you're really doing is going to make an impact which is much, much more than just selling education, which is not what you're doing. But the language that you speak will determine the reason why consumers, your students of the future, will choose you. So every action of yours will be based on this purpose which you have decided. I would welcome you to use this presentation to think about this, and hopefully this presentation would have made a difference to Amity. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you. If you have any questions, if you have time, Biju, we can take it. We can go. I have the time, so if you have the inclination, I'm ready.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, for that wonderful presentation, especially that Air Deccan film is actually moving. I remember in this context, sometime during that 2003-04, I was waiting to catch a flight in the Chennai airport, and there was a sudden announcement of the gates being changed. And there was this elderly Iyer couple standing in front of me, near me, and I overheard them saying, "Oh, the platform they are changing." Okay, so they switch off from, that is how it is. That's precisely what you are talking about.
Yeah.
So Thomas is open to questions. So if you have questions from the audience, you can send me or you can type on the chat box. He will be more than happy to answer it. Okay, there are a few which has already come. Thomas, Professor Matthew is asking that what should be the belief for an educational brand?
Yeah.
What should be the belief?
No, I think it's a very interesting question. It's not for me to say, but I can tell you there is there has to be a belief, and I can share with you what some institutions have used as a belief. Now, if you think of I come from Chennai. My father was a professor in Loyola College, and Loyola College is an educational institution. I can tell you that they had a belief. They believed that the best of education is the only way in which New India can be delivered. So they believed that they exist to bring European quality education to the Indian youth. So that's just a belief that helped animate Loyola College brand. Now, in the case of Amity, times have changed. Of course, the role of education is still the same in terms that it is actually the platform on which the future that you truly deserve, the potential that you truly have is realized. We need to write this belief in very sharp terms, because it should not be a paragraph. It should not be something that is too loosely worded so that it covers all the bases. It is okay if you exclude a few things in the belief. What should be the belief for Amity? It's not for me to say, because it is usually related to the founding emotion behind Amity. And I know that a Christian institution has a certain belief, a Hindu institution can have a certain belief, and these are all realities. Or a more open kind of brand can have a different belief. But educational institutions are usually founded on a belief, and it is very important for us to write this in terms of what is it about us in our heart, that we want to do for humanity. Now, Captain Gopinath is just an example that I used because he could have actually positioned himself as another airline magnate, but he was actually from a small village in Gorur, which is outside Bangalore, and he felt, as a kid, he used to look up and see these planes flying, and when he grew up, his belief was that flying should still not be only for the rich, and he was flying definitely, but he felt that there is 99% which is not flying. Similarly, you must have something that rouses emotion within you, and I want to know what that is for Amity. It's sitting here, it's difficult for me to intuit, but typically what I do with my clients is I do a soul searching exercise with them, where I tell them to go back and talk about the moments in their lives, which has nothing to do with their current business probably, but there will be some incident or moments in their life where this basic belief would have become alive. And what do you think was the event in Gandhiji's life? It was the Pietermaritzburg incident, right? When he was chucked out of the train. I think that is where Gandhi's belief of what his purpose of his life was revealed to him. I think we have to look for the similar kind of moments where the clue as to what our belief is, and of course every other aspect of Amity's framework as well. But we need to ask this question: what do we truly believe in? And believe me, every brand, when Apple is in computer category, their belief is about creativity. That's because the people who made computers there were creative people. In the same way, there might be something very defining and unchangeable about you, which is what a belief is. A belief, people ask me, so what is your belief? I run a company which is called Transformer. Okay, my belief is that there is for every brand a language that captures its greatness. That's my belief. No brand. I told you about chewing gum. Okay, let me explain to you. I did this exercise with a chewing gum brand. And when I did this, the role of a chewing gum is not just to just chew and show disdain for the world. The role of a chewing gum for a sportsman is he's standing in the middle of the pitch with a lack of people looking at him. Even though he's maybe the world's best batsman, he does have pangs of nervousness. But for him, chewing gum was a way of keeping his jaw muscles, giving him something to do so that his mind is distracted from the nervousness that he's feeling. So the purpose of a chewing gum, even for a champion cricketer, is to become a prop for self-confidence. So you see that a chewing gum is actually a prop for self-confidence when a champion is in the center stage. So if you have a belief that I am here to give people confidence in moments of when something huge is at stake, a chewing gum will probably do the job. So what is my belief? There is, for every brand, there is a language which captures its greatness. And I'm sure it's there for Amity as well. Does that answer your question?
Okay, Thomas, thank you. We also with us Sandeep Nayyar. Sandeep Nayyar actually chairs the Kerala Advertising Agency Association.
Okay.
Would you like to ask anything, Sandeep?
No, it was really, it was fantastic presentation, good learning. After a long time, we really enjoyed. At present, nothing to ask, but definitely, we all enjoyed. And, I should say thanks you sent this invitation and our, all team could join. And I request to, you again, if we can do this kind of some presentation, it will be really good for our advertising fraternity.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so
Sandeep.
much.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you, Thomas. We have reached the time limit. So thanks once again, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
All the best to Amity and to you, Biju. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.